Thanos' plan has been executed. At the end of Avengers Infinity War, he has obtained the 6 Infinity Stones, and with a snap of his fingers, he's turned half the living beings into dust. Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, they vanished into thin air, and along with them, billions of living beings. Now, it also turns out that Thanos did not use his unlimited power for any other purpose. He's destroyed the 6 stones. The process is irreversible. Or is it? Endgame enters the world of quantum physics to go and retrieve the stones in the past. A time heist, Ant-Man calls the plan. It demands a great amount of concentration of the viewer to understand who is where and when to get what stone. But either way, the result is that history takes a new turn through these interventions. For a start, Thanos' fate changes. Thanks to his daughter Nebula, that is, the older evil version of this character, Thanos is there when our heroes have unearthed the Infinity Stones from the past. It marks the start of a devastating battle on Earth. A telling dialogue between Iron Man and Thanos takes place there. Recall that Thanos represents impersonal reason. The universe is finite, he posited in Infinity War. The resource is finite. That's why he exterminates half the living creature to create Lebensraum. Now, it has become clear to him that this doesn't work. I thought by eliminating half of life, he says, the other half would thrive, but you've shown me that's impossible. As long as there are those that remember what was, there will always be those that are unable to accept what can be, that will resist. Blind ratio ignores the person and thus memory. But this insight doesn't lead Thanos to a more humane attitude. He only becomes more fanatical. I will shred this universe down to its last atom, he growls, adding that he will enjoy the destruction he will cause. Unsurprisingly, he doesn't succeed. The Avengers put a stop to that. The Lord protects the way of the righteous, says Psalm 1 in the Old Testament. The way of the lawless is a dead end. But that won't happen by itself. It will take the utmost from Iron Man, for example. At the beginning of the film, he leads the life Thanos envisaged for those who would remain. 5 years after the fatal moment, Tony Stark lives by a beautiful lake with his beloved Pepper Potts and their infant daughter. He has everything his heart desires for his personal life. And then Captain America, the Black Widow and Ant-Man come to disturb his peace. They want to convince him to join the ambitious plan to turn back time. Tony sees only what he could lose by doing so. He says, I believe the most likely outcome will be our collective demise. Ant-Man replies, I know you got a lot on the line, your wife, a daughter, but I lost someone very important to me. A lot of people did. And now we have a chance to bring her back, to bring everyone back. And you're telling me that you don't even... Tony interrupts, saying, that's right, Scott, I won't. A snappy detail makes the contrast even sharper. The visiting Avengers want to convince Tony to save the universe. Tony's daughter comes to get him and says, Mummy told me to come and save you. Daddy Tony replies, good job, I'm saved. The saving of the universe is off for now because Tony's family has already been saved. So, in the end, what makes him change his mind? While washing dishes, his eye catches a picture with Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Tony too has lost someone. He too knows someone who needs saving. Besides, Tony's been saved himself, remember? When we talked about Infinity War here, we already pointed out the curious scene in which Doctor Strange gives up the Time Stone to save Iron Man from certain death. When the hurt Stark asks him why, The answer sounded mysterious. We're in the Endgame now. Apparently, Doctor Strange foresaw that Stark would turn out to be more important than the Time Stone. Now we will discover that he was right. Incidentally, this storyline even goes back to the very first Iron Man. Ho Yin-sen gives his life to save Tony's. Don't waste it. Don't waste your life. Ho Yin-sen presses him when Tony says, "Thank you for saving me." It was then that a story began that brought Tony Stark here. This is the moment when he will respond to his deepest calling. That it proves so difficult to make this come true reminds me of the biblical prophet of Jonah. He's got to go and save the great city of Nineveh, but makes every effort in the world to escape it. But in the end, he will carry out his mission with verve. The same goes for Tony Stark. When Thanos has the 6 stones back in his hands, and even the unbeatable Captain Marvel is temporarily out of contention, Iron Man and Doctor Strange look each other in the eye. "This is your moment," Doctor Strange seems to be saying, and he raises his index finger. In Infinity War, Doctor Strange envisioned all possible scenarios of this battle. There were 14,605,000. How many of them positive? Iron Man then asked. And the answer was 1. Did Doctor Strange foresee what presents itself here now? Is this the one scenario in which salvation is possible? Can the universe survive only if Tony Stark gives his life? At first, Iron Man seems to lose out again, but nothing happens when Thanos snaps his fingers. Imperceptibly, Iron Man has snatched the Infinity Stones. Suddenly, all the power lies with him. Too much power, we know, because even Hulk could barely handle the finger snapping. Iron Man realizes that this will cost him his life. Saving yourself or the universe, that's what it comes down to for him. Thus, Tony's finger snap takes on messianic allure. He gives his life for that of the rest of the universe. No one has greater love than he who gives his life for his friends, says the Gospel according to John. A scene that was ultimately not included in the film shows how the Avengers kneel one by one after Tony Stark dies. It indicates that the makers too sensed the religious nature of this moment. The scene was not included because the farewell ritual at the lake took precedence. Pepper lays a wreath of flowers on the water. On the wreath, the gift she had given to Tony Stark in the first Iron Man film, proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Remembered? When we discussed Iron Man, we talked about man finding his identity through the appeal of others. In Endgame, we learn that this calling is that of love. The love that does not cling to what it has, but the love that is willing to give everything. Although we're all unique and our role in life is necessarily different, Christians believe that we all share this, to be called to love, even unto death. In the church, we connect this with the concept of holiness. You know, that at regular intervals people are canonized. Think of Francis of Assisi or Father Damien. The life stories of these saints are diverse, but they all have one element in common. They gave flesh and blood to the love that gives itself away. They've done so to save others from hunger, despair, poverty, loneliness, oblivion, and so on. They found the strength to do so in the source of love we call God. They discovered the inspiration and example in the one man in whom that God showed himself, Jesus. And through their surrender to the power of this love, the world has become a more beautiful place. Could it be that our society pays so much attention to heroes because the saints have faded somewhat out of sight? And isn't it unfortunate that we need fictional and entertaining characters to portray man's true vocation when you used to have the inspiring testimony of real people? Because make no mistake, holiness is not a privilege of an exclusive club. It's the destiny of every human being without exception. In his pre-recorded message for his family, Tony speaks from behind the frontier of death, as it were, telling them that he hopes they're celebrating and that he knows he shouldn't worry about dying because that's the hero's destiny and that it is all right. What a need our world has for people who pursue the good with this attitude. How much our world needs saints.